Pung means bread, but it didn't come from English. English doesn't even call bread pung. It's Portuguese. Pung landed in 1543, and Japanese is stacked with imported words like this. You're about to spot them on sight. The sailors who carried it were the first Europeans ever to reach Japan, and their bread outlived them. Order pung today, and you're speaking 16th century Portuguese. So how much of Japanese came from outside and from where? Start with what these imports are called. The name says it all in 3 characters. Gairaigo. 3 characters, 3 pieces. Gai, outside. Rai, to come. Go, word. Words that came from outside. Simple, except the definition hides a catch. Gairaigo only counts modern borrowings, Portuguese, Dutch, English. Japan also borrowed heavily from Chinese over 1,000 years ago, and that ancient layer is filed separately because it's been around so long it behaves like native vocabulary. So the Japanese notion of loanword is narrower than the English one, recent arrivals only, which raises a question. If ancient Chinese gets its own layer, how many layers are there? 4 officially. Linguists sort every Japanese word into 4 layers. Native words, wago. Ancient Chinese borrowings, kango. Modern imports, our gairaigo. And hybrids, konshugo. Only that 3rd label needs to stick, though the hybrids are the fun ones. Haburashi means toothbrush. Ha is native Japanese for tooth. Burashi is the English brush. One everyday word welded together from 2 different layers. The borders leak like that constantly. Still, every word in the import layer arrived from somewhere at some moment, and the arrivals came in 3 great waves. You've already met Wave 1. Wave 1, Portuguese. After 1543, traders and missionaries kept coming for nearly a century, and new things came with them, each one wearing its Portuguese name. Bread, pão. Tobacco, tabaco. Buttons, botão. And castera, the golden sponge cake named after Castella, still everywhere in Japan today. That's the classic way a loanword is born. A new object shows up, and its foreign name simply moves in with it. Wave 1 still works at breakfast. Pão yakimasu ka? Do you bake bread? Then, in the 1640s, the door slammed shut. In 1641, Japan closed itself to the West, every port shut with a single exception. Before I show it, a quick guess. Kohi, coffee. Which language gave Japan that word? It sounds English. It isn't. For over 2 centuries, the only Western traders allowed in were the Dutch, confined to Dejima, a tiny man-made island in Nagasaki Harbor. Everything Western squeezed through that one dot on the map. So Japan's coffee is Dutch, kofi. Beer, too, biru from beer. Window glass, garasu. Even gasu, gas. Dutch books fed a whole field of science the Japanese called rangaku, Dutch learning. One tiny island, fingerprints all over the language. And those waves didn't blur together. They left layers you can catch red-handed. Japanese borrowed the same European word twice. From Dutch, glass, in the Edo era, garasu, the glass in your window. From English, much later, gurasu, the glass you drink from. Same ancestor, 2 arrivals, 2 pronunciations, 2 meanings, side by side in one language. Words fossilize the century they landed in. And the 3rd wave dropped more fossils than the first 2 combined. In 1868, the Meiji Restoration threw Japan's doors open, and modernization hit at a sprint. The borrowings started out mixed, German for medicine, French for the arts, but English kept climbing and never stopped. Today, 80 to 90% of all gairaigo come from English. Terebi, your TV, is one of thousands, and the wave is still breaking. New products and new slang keep landing from abroad with their names attached. For you, that's genuinely good news. Most of the import layer is built from a language you already speak. 2 catches right along though, and I'll hand you both before the end. First, how do you even find these words on a page? Japanese gives you a flag. The flag is the script itself. Japanese writing splits its work 3 ways. Kanji and hiragana carry native and ancient Chinese words, while katakana, the sharp, angular characters, is reserved mostly for imports. That's official policy. In 1991, the Japanese government codified katakana as the standard script for loan words and foreign names. Fun twist, the term name-gairaigo is itself written in kanji, so the label never looks like the words it names. Either way, katakana works like highlighter ink. The moment a word appears in it, your first guess should be borrowed, probably from English. You've sorted the word before touching a dictionary, the fastest reading shortcut this topic has. But notice I said first guess. The exceptions run in both directions. Try this one. Kira-kira, written in katakana, so borrowed from where? Trick question. Kira-kira is native Japanese. It means sparkly, and katakana is just dressing it up for emphasis, the way English leans on italics. The script also carries sound effect words and species names. Meanwhile, a few genuine loanwords wear kanji costumes. On old shop signs, tobacco appears as tabako and coffee as kohi, imports in disguise. So read katakana as probably foreign, now confirm. A strong default, not proof. Fair enough, but how much of the language are we actually talking about? Here's the number, and it's slippery in the most interesting way. Textbook estimates say 10 to 15% of modern Japanese vocabulary is borrowed. But Japan's National Language Institute measured a massive corpus of written Japanese and found a split. By running text, loanwords are only about 5%. By distinct words, about 19%. In other words, imports repeat less often than native words, yet they supply nearly a fifth of the vocabulary's variety. And they cluster hard. Tech, business, food, fashion. A menu or a tech article can be wall-to-wall katakana. Since most of that layer is English-based, that's a mountain of Japanese you already half know. There's the treasure. Now the 2 catches. Catch 1. These words are Japanese now, and they sound Japanese. English strike is 1 syllable. In Japanese, it becomes su-to-ra-i-ku. 5 beats with vowels slipped in to break up the consonants. So read the katakana, never the English spelling, or nobody will understand you. Catch 2. Looking English isn't being English. Japan also builds pseudo-English of its own, wasei-eigo, made in Japan English, words assembled from English parts that no English speaker actually uses. That trap is big enough to deserve its own video. Respect those 2 rules, and your English becomes a running head start. 1 card, the whole map. Katakana, probably borrowed, confirm it. The layers underneath, Portuguese-ships, a Dutch island, an English flood, and roughly 1 in 5 distinct words waiting to be unlocked. Save it for your next menu, because pan was never just bread. It's a bite of 1543 you can order in any bakery in Japan. The language is full of stowaways like that, now that you know how to look. Thanks so much for watching to the end. If you'd like to keep learning Japanese this way, real words in real context, Amenokori is the #1 app to learn Japanese in context, and it's free on the Apple App Store and Google Play.